about debugging and also how to communicate the right information to someone that's going to help you. And let me explain. This is a beautiful website. Why, thank you. I didn't do it. The Boca Code students did. Now, when I go ahead and do something about it, and I type something like this, I have something to write, and I click on it, it gives me an error. This is an error we've all seen. We've clicked on the button to add. In this case, this is a to-do list, and it's telling us some error. So the next thing you're going to do, of course, and what I would tell you to do is just go and say, hands up, I don't know what's going on. Hey, boss, fix it. Hey, senior developer, fix it. And that's incredibly rude and inefficient. Someone that has to come in here doesn't know what's going on. So what you want to do as a developer is say you got an error, try to prove certain things. For example, you may be working on localhost. Well, I can see localhost up here. Localhost sometimes talks to localhost API. So my localhost website will usually talk to my localhost API. Okay, so I can check and see if the server's on. Let's do that quickly. I can come in here and say, okay, it looks like it's on. Please excuse me. I have, by the way, both the front end and back end running on two things. Don't get confused by that. I'll showcase when we need to, but it's both projects in one. Not a big deal. Okay, I say to myself, I can see it. In fact, there's the request that's there. It looks legit. It looks good. So what could be possibly wrong? The next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and try to dig deeper and showcase what's going on. This will have two purposes. One, you'll rubber duck yourself. That is, you'll try to go and define what is wrong so that you can describe it better to someone with more knowledge, with a different pair of eyes that will have not looked at the same error for 3 hours as you did, but also will maybe solve it yourself. How do we do this? I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. I'm going to right click and go to our Trust to be inspector. Now the information comes in here, and I normally have this code, or I'm usually here on the console. But one of the things that really helps me, and that's my favorite thing in the world to do, is go to the network tab. Let me explain what it is. I can have the console back here. If I go ahead and press the escape key here, I just press the escape key on my keyboard. Mac, Windows, Linux, heck, even your Chromebook will have that. And press escape one more time. You can have the console at the very bottom of the, but for this purpose, we don't really need it. Here's what's going to happen. The inspector tool can give you things like the console, the elements, say what's going on in here. Let me see how, where's this thing showing? Where's this particular thing? Where's this button called? But also the network tabs that tells me what's going on. And up here, I have some filters. One of the filters I've chosen is the fetch filter. So what JavaScript fetch, an API call, will show up here and nothing else will here. If I refresh a page, you'll see the request coming in, the one request to get the to-do list in this example. In this case, we'll see what we're looking for. Remember, it was pressing the add button. So I'm not going to see images, CSS, other things that I could if I choose them over here. I only want fetch. Good. I can even click on the clear button here. I've done it ahead of schedule just for your purposes, so that you don't see exactly what it is that that was happening before, because I don't really care. I only care about it from now on in this situation. Okay, I'm going to click on add one more time. So I'm recreating the mistake. Remember, if you need to solve the mistake, if you were at your first job and they've said, look, this is the mistake, you need to get to a space that you're about to recreate the mistake, about to redo what is causing the issue. In this case, I'm like, no, I want this ad to add to the list, which is not. This text that I have here isn't being added to the list. In fact, it's popping up an error. And we'll look at that error in just a second. We'll get more information about it. Okay. So remember, when you get the request, write down what the request is. In this case, I know what it is. I'm in the middle of it. I want to debug, and I want to give information to somebody else. You'll see what I'm talking about in 1 second. I'm going to click on add here, and I'm going to cause the mistake, cause the problem. I can see that the pop-up is saying what I realized was before, and it's a common one. You have seen this before. So look at it, doc type, something like that, and you're like, wow, what's going on? Okay, click on it. What we have now is a new line here on the right-hand side on my network tabs. And it's red. Might be other questions, but it's giving us. It says 404. Some of us are you're already guessing what's going on. Let's dig a little deeper. I'm going to click on it, and I can see that it's going to my local host. Not a big surprise. It's looking to the API. 5,000. Here's the first thing I can try. 3,000, 5,000 looks good. 5,000 is in my situation, maybe yours as well, the API endpoint. I happen to know that's true. And 3,000 in my React. One of the first things they can do is one common thing is this, for example, the 3,000 is pointing to 3,000. The React is thinking that the API endpoint, you were so used to, no, localhost 3,000, localhost 3,000, what I work on. Yes, that's probably what you work on in React, but not maybe the back. But that looks like a good backend call slash tasks. By the way, here's the problem. But I can see myself, okay, I'm doing a post to slash tasks. And I can go to the next tab and I can say, and I'm getting, sorry, I'm doing a post. There's this post right there to that URL. Looks good. I know there's something wrong. Personally, I know there's something wrong. This is a hint. But for now, let's look at it. And it says 404 not found. That's so funny because I'm pretty sure that's the right URL. The payload is the one I'm sending here. The title and the UID. Cool stuff. And then I can see what did it response back. It says the response looks like web page. In fact, if we click on preview, I get a nice looking web page. And if I get a response, I can see it's actual HTML. It's a JSON API backend, so it shouldn't be replying with HTML. So that's really what it's doing. And it's telling there's no slash tasks. Now, this is sometimes enough. You get yourself saying, I know this is the right end. I know this is the right endpoint. What am I doing wrong? And now you can give someone like yourself, maybe you've already detected what the problem is. But I can tell you, not, hey, look, I gotta click on this, I get an error, help me. Instead, when I click on it, you can say I get the error, and this is the call, this is where I'm going to, this is what I'm getting back, this is the payload that I'm sending, and this is maybe the response. And that may be something that the developer can help you with, the boss, the person that knows the system very well, or simply another junior developer like yourself that has seen something somewhere, and you're like, oh, I know what it is, maybe the backend person. Let's talk about that backend person. Well, it's us in this case. So let's look at that. And we can figure out what's going on. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to the API. Again, don't be confused with the fact that I have both the API and the front end together here. Not a huge big deal. I'm going to open up the API. The API is a Firebase project. I can see that because it's Firebase JSON. And inside the Firebase JSON, the majority of times we have our code inside functions. I'm going to go inside functions. I'm going to go to our first file, index, and see what it looks like. And I can let's remind ourselves, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go and say, I was going to go to slash tasks, okay? Slash tasks and, it was expecting a slash tasks and something afterwards, not just slash task. So it was doing what we've asked it to. We told it to go slash task. The API is like, I don't have slash task. And it's right. Got it. This is common. And you may have this in patches that you do or posts. So just remember this. This is a little different, but this is very common. So I know where this is. I go into the front end. I spend some time looking at it. This happens to be the right page. Look, that's the form I'm used to. I know this. I'm working for a while. There's my call of adding new functions. And then I happen to remember what it is, right? And I happen to remember by doing Control Z and seeing what it is here. Please excuse me. It is that I'm missing this variable back here. So it looks like the UID is what I'm passing in here. Okay, so I'm going to go and put it in here. This isn't what's going to be wrong with yours. I just happen to know, because I just erased it a second ago, that this is what's going on. I forgot to go, because this was a post, and add something unique about it, right? So that's the right one. I can confirm that. This is again me on the back end, and I see it says post. That's what I'm hitting. Task slash something. So I was missing something. Okay. What was that something? Let's sneak up around. I'm going to hold down the command or control key on Windows and Linux, and I'm going to click on it. It's going to jump to that website where this is been imported from and jump down to the method I'm doing here. Okay. It says that the res dot please excuse me, the I think the UID is coming in there. I need the UID. The UID is right there. Okay. So I have to use the UID and it has to be sent in here. Okay, perfect. So great. I've saved it. I'm going to save it. This is the front end. When I save, most of the time you don't need to refresh the page. This is the page, and it's going to call the right idea. I'm going to come in here and click on add. Task was added successfully. Wonderful. It said, and now I've added a third one. Great. Click on, hey, wait a minute. The third one is not there. Next lesson. This is common for everybody to do. And the reason is like sometimes we've had this conversation. Should an API come back with a message saying you've successfully posted, and then you go and you decide what to do, which in this case would be to refresh the list? Or should an API, once it's posted successfully, return the list? We'll look at what it does in a second. I'm going to come in here and see that that's the new post. And when I clicked on add, it goes localhost slash task. And then as you can see, the corrected thing, it said 201. Let's look at the payload. That's what I've sent in. Cool. The preview, that's what I'm getting back from the API. It says there's a message with a success true and says task added successfully. Okay, that's cool. All right. That doesn't sound right. I thought I coded it different. Let's see what I did. In here, I said, well, there's that list in here. What's going on? It was supposed to give me a list back, and when it gave me a list, it was supposed to update the list. What happened? Ah, right. I kind of made some work that said, if the backend fails, it might bring me a message. And if I do have a message, I should pop it up and be done. Return. Okay, this isn't bad. This is a good pattern. So if I get a message back in the data, then most likely it's not an array and I shouldn't just list it up there. Okay, so the front end looks good. The back end's bad. It should be coming back with an array. So let's look at it. Let's come in here and look at the post. We looked at it a second ago. Okay, post and slash ID. We solved the first problem. Come in here and going to go click, and we're going to see what's going on in there. And blah, 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 blah. It does some things. It adds it to collection. And oh, right there. It's deciding not to return the new list, but instead it's returning a message. Well, that's not what I wanted. Now I know why it's popping up a message. So let me comment that out. That's not exactly what I'm doing. What I would do in this situation, because either I've decided this, or the boss has told me this, or the project manager or someone else has told me, no, whenever you do a post, go ahead and return the list. This isn't a given. This is not a programming thing. The program will only do what you're looking for. Please excuse me, I have Copilot in there, so it's giving me the answer. Don't look at the answer. What I wanted to do is add it. I'm doing that. And then call that sort of get in there right away. Well, let's scroll up. This is the one I want to call, right? So exactly what it is, and you saw it a second ago in the ChatGPT Copilot. So instead of doing a res, I'm going to go ahead and send that back. In other words, say I've successfully inserted, I'm awaiting it. Now that it's finished, I'm going to go ahead and just call the normal request for it to go back. I'm going to call Control C or Control S, please excuse me. And we'll notice, please excuse me, that the backend, I apologize, the backend was here and there, and it should have reloaded. And it will do it in just a second. When I clicked on save, this kind of loaded back up. It complained about some things and it's ready to go. Let's see if it is ready to go. I'm going to go back to the front end and say, and now we should have them all. I'm going to look at it. I can leave the list here or click on clear so that I can see, please excuse me, this clear over here, so I can see all the list in here. And I click on add, and as you can see, I've said task added successfully. I think the backend didn't update yet. Let me click on see what happened there. We're gonna go ahead and the demo gods are not with me. You know what I mean? What you should have happened is this change that we did here should have gone live. For some reason, we have a mistake in there. That's why it didn't go live. We should have been fine. Firebase user code failed to load. Oh my. So it looks like there was an error. Now, that's okay. Let's go ahead and clear it. Let's make sure we have everything correctly. Let's see. It looks good. This looks like it should have worked. I like what it is. Let's go ahead and run it one more time, just in case something happened. And also, maybe this is a chance to look at it. What's going on is that we will have sometimes some examples of Firebase not starting or not seem to start. Please excuse me, quite the opposite. Firebase will seem to start perfectly fine, and we will ignore that fact that it's having an error. And therefore, we will see the line we're looking for, maybe because this is very tiny, like this tiny bit. And we just see the glance of that last line that says localhost 5000. You're like, everything worked fine. Otherwise, it would have aired out. Not necessarily true. I'll show you that in just a second as this starts up. Firebase sometimes will start, but not necessarily start, and show you there's an error. I'm going to go ahead and check by cheating a little bit and seeing the difference. Here's the other one. This is not debugging, but this is me cheating for my example here. So let's see. Tasks. Let's see what the difference is. Let's see, get, and then the tasks. So it was this way before. It is correct, and it will be the same way. So please excuse me for my little diligence. We're going to come over here. Like I said, we'll look at here and say, good, it loaded perfectly fine. After all, it didn't crash. Let's make sure it didn't crash. So we can see this line that you're used to, and you say to yourself, that truly is that it worked. But up here, we should check out here. There's no bugs this time. But trust me, if you're like, it's supposed to work, but it doesn't, open up Postman. Do yourself more than just a request. See what it normally requests. I'm going to hit refresh, and don't trust that the React thinks it's working. Instead, for example, try, hitting the endpoint yourself and see what happens. We're going to go to Postman, hit the endpoint. This looks good. Click on send and see that it comes back with a list. That means it's good. I'm going to go to the back end and see that the list is there. Let's try that one more time. And a fifth one. Fifth spelled wrong. It's almost as if I wasn't born in this country. How about that? We've solved the problem. I'm going to come over here one more time and look for that new line. There's that new line. There's the payload. There's the header. There's a response back with a prettier version under preview. And also the keen eye of you saw that it was added here. So therefore, we've solved the problem. Let's summarize. Whenever there is a problem you're having and you need to ask for help, please ask for help. The last thing we want to do is suffer in silence. But do more than just, look, it's not working, and cry. That's what I do. You will not do this. What you instead do is make sure you can prove to somebody else that what you believe is working is working. Maybe show them that it's working on Postman. Maybe show them Inspector and say, look, I'm going to add something here. Watch this. Click and show them the error. Maybe show them that you've looked at the headers. You've looked at it's going to the right URL. You looked at it's going to the right thing. You looked at you're getting the correct reply back. You've looked at the payload, what you send the API is correct. You've looked at what you receive is correct. And that in itself, when you can present that information, I, as a person who wants to help you, can truly help you. Otherwise, I have to do all that work. And there's no need because you've already done all that work and you know it. So remember, prove the obvious, prove that when you hit the API endpoint, it works correctly, prove that you're making the right call, prove that what you thought the backend was going to do, the front end is doing, prove that what you've agreed with you yourself, because you're the front end, you're the back end, is what it's doing. And don't just run to someone and say, it doesn't work. I've tried everything. Prove that that's the case. Okay? So, Damien here, letting you know that you are amazing and that you're going to do great in this, but help those helping you by first helping yourself. Thank you. Bye bye.